welcome again to Events That Win Elections. This is being put on by myself. I'm wearing two hats right now, if you can't see. I'm wearing my Building Bridges for America hat, and then also with a local a grassroots group for North Central Indiana called the Kitchen Cabinet. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to share my screen. One second. All right, how's that look? It look good? Good to go. So again, welcome to Events That Win Elections. And this is also a similar course to the one that we teach called Events for Change. So Events That Win Elections is more for events that you would put on here as we are getting into the final 13 weeks of an election cycle. So we changed the title slightly to be Events That Win Elections, and we changed the content slightly to be more about that direct voter contact and the things that would really help, again, to win elections coming up in these all too critical midterm elections. So a couple friendly norms. If you could keep yourself muted unless you are speaking, it just helps to cut down on that background noise. Go ahead over there in the chat, introduce yourself, say hello to your fellow like-minded Democrats out from across the country, and let us know where you are joining us from. Go ahead and post those questions out there in the chat, and we'll get to a Q&A at the end. I'll try my very best. I got my eye on the clock to keep this to an hour to be respectful of everybody's time. And again, thank you all for being here. If you want to find the chat or raise your hand, it is under the ellipses on a phone or an iPad. Under the ellipses is actually where you find both chat and where to raise your hand. And on a tablet, on a computer, it'll be raising your hand is actually under reactions. So my name is Kaz Margana. I use she, her pronouns. If you can't see me on the screen, I'm a 40-something-ish white woman, and I'm wearing my Pro Row t-shirt today. So I'm coming to you from Indiana, so it is very much forefront of on our minds and in our organizing is assuring that we continue to have abortion rights in this state. So I'm a volunteer. I have a full-time job. I actually work in the aerospace industry. So in my spare time, I'm a grassroots organizer. So I share that just to relay that, it's just like you can be very busy, you can have a lot going on, but you can still be able to find those spare hours here or there where you can organize to make a real difference, because all of us pitching in those spare hours that we have here or there, combining all those efforts together is how we create real change for the Democratic Party. So I'm coming to you, like I mentioned at the beginning, that I'm wearing several hats. One of them is for Building Bridges for America. So this is a nationwide all volunteer group, and we support progressive candidates across the country. And then we particularly want to empower people to step up and be active in politics, could be for the first time or in a renewed way. So I like to say that we like to encourage non-voters to become voters, encourage voters to become volunteers, empower those volunteers to become leaders, and then those leaders then to become our candidates. So with Building Bridges, we train people to at all those different steps, how to take one more step forward. And then we endorse candidates. So we've endorsed a slate of candidates from across the country, and we are working on endorsing Heidi Beininger, who is the one that we are recording this this session for. She's running for State House in Indiana, incredibly important considering what is going on with that. Currently the Republicans have a supermajority, so they've kind of hijacked the State House, hijacked the state with their gerrymandering. So we need to be electing more Democrats into our State House. So come 2030, we can redraw those lines and actually restore some democracy here in Indiana. And Heidi's going to be a big part of that. So very happy to be for Building Bridges, very happy to be able to endorse and support her. So with Building Bridges, you can find our list of the candidates that we have endorsed at buildingbridgesforamerica.com. It's also where you can find the training resources and some team resources that I'll be going over today. The other hat that I got on today is for the kitchen cabinet. So this is a local grassroots group here for the Congressional District 2 in Indiana, which is North Central Indiana. And this is a grassroots group that is specifically about empowered women to empower other Hoosier women. And so obviously that is right in line then with helping out with Heidi Beidinger's campaign. She is definitely an empowered Hoosier woman who stepped up to run, and now we are empowering others to help her win that race, and to sustain that race, right? So to win and then hold it for the years coming forward. Again, this is I've mentioned Heidi a couple of times. So this is Heidi, and if you want to help out her campaign, you can send a donation to HeidiForIndiana.com. Or if you are local in the area, if you're local in somewhere in North Central Indiana and you'd like to help out with her campaign, currently right now they are out, they have a canvas going on right now, canvassing, and then they're going to canvass again on Saturday and Sunday. So lots of action going on with that campaign. So if you're local in the area and want to help out, go to HeidiForIndiana.com, say join Team Heidi, and you will be linked in to all the action that they're taking on the ground right now. All right, so before we get started in talking about events, the first thing I want you to do is to close your eyes and picture for yourself, when you hear the words political organizing event, what do you picture in your head? So when you hear political organizing event, what are you picturing? So you can share in chat if you'd like what you think a political organizing event is. I will say, so prior to 2019, I was not, I called myself, I was barely a voter. I was not involved in politics at all. So if you asked me when back then, if I put myself in the shoes of that person back then, what a political organizing event is, my only guess would be what I've seen. So like a presidential debate or, you know, like a big, you know, like the party gets together and you know, fills the stadium once a year for some sort of event, right? That's what I would be thinking of, you know, one of Trump's rallies. That's what I'd be thinking of, right? As far as a political organizing event. Anybody else?
and see, we don't have anything in the chat, but I think, you know, again, in my experience, I might think of it, it's always got to be a fundraiser. And like you're saying, it always has to be something big, you know, and as opposed to, you know, not a fundraiser or something more modest.
Yeah. So yeah, most people, when they think of most people out there, not us very special, highly engaged in the political process people, but most people, right? Most everyone else, when they think of a political organizing event, they think about these giant party events, you know, or huge campaign rallies. And I will preface just a little note: almost all the pictures that I'm going to be sharing in here are going way back before the pandemic. So this was during the primary, the presidential primary. So both I and then Jenny, who also puts together these slides, we both worked on Pete Buttigieg's campaign. So it's all going to be Pete stuff, just because during Biden's campaign, we were in our living rooms and we didn't have any events. We're just now with this cycle, we're able to start getting out there and doing events in person. But yeah, you're going to see a lot of stuff coming from Pete's campaign, just because that's the most recent stuff I have. You know, that's COVID, and COVID is still with us. All right. So again, most people, when they think about a political organizing event, they're going to think giant party events, maybe, you know, big campaign rallies. Maybe they'll think like really big fundraisers, you know, where they're raising lots of money. So that's what most people think of when they think of political organizing event. But I invite you to instead when you think of a political organizing event, I want you to think about things, I like to call it human scale, right? People scale, human scale events, like hosting a house party where you invite friends and people that you know, maybe your neighbors, into your living room, literally into your living room for a house party. Or maybe it's called what we call meetup events. So events where you're actually meeting somewhere in public, where you're inviting other like-minded people who you might not particularly know to join you, you know, in a coffee shop, in a brewery, in, you know, some sort of casual seating environment. Have those meetup events with other like-minded people and other volunteers. There's that direct voter contact kind of events. So there's the traditional, you're knocking on doors, you're canvassing, like Heidi is doing as we speak. There's phone banking. We have a lot of phone banking going on in this area as well for Paul Sturry's campaign, who's running for the US House. Lit dropping. So lit dropping is rather than talking to someone at the door, it is literally just dropping a handout or something at their door. Clipboarding is where you are going to where an event is happening, where there's a lot of people out. And this is similar to tabling, where, but rather than having a table, you're walking around with a clipboard and you're going up and talking to people. So these are ways that you are directly engaging voters. You can have a community roundtable. So you can invite people from your community to get together and have a real dialogue, a real discussion about what is happening in your community. I mentioned clipboarding is like tabling. Well, you can do tabling as well, where you put out a table at an event, let's say a county fair or some community event is happening. You put out a table with, you know, stickers and stuff that you come up with to hand out, so people will stop and then you can engage them about a candidate. Showing up at a town hall, that's a great way to get people that are, you know, engaged and in taking part directly in the government affairs, is organizing to show up at events where the elected officials are speaking. Training volunteers. So getting together at a library, or here, we're all in a Zoom room, getting people together to train and share your ideas. And then there's the fun stuff, right? Is there's like there you could just go around town with the giant picture, giant head of your candidate and get people to take pictures, right? And get that stuff out on social media. It's just fun. It's a fun way to engage people and get them to know who your candidate is, get that name recognition going, actually, even get some image, them actually, being able to recognize the person going. Or if your town does some fun events, right? Participating in those fun events as part of the campaign. Because I like to say, campaigning, it has to be fun. You have to have fun. Why are you doing it if you don't have fun and if it's not joyful, right? So make fun, have fun, and invite others in to join with you. So as we're going through today and we're talking about events, I want you to keep all those different kinds of events in mind. Is these human scale kind of events where you invite people you're creating opportunities for people to participate and convene, learn, directly contact voters, and also have a lot of fun. So again, when you think about a political organizing event, I am asking that you that you think about enthusiasm, right? Creating a sense of enthusiasm and hope, and that something's happening. A lot of times people like to vote or pay attention to a candidate that they think is going to win, right? So you make it seem like it's happening, like this candidate is on the rise. Core of any kind of organizing is going to be relationships. So building those relationships. So when you're hosting that house party, you're building that relationship with that person. Even when you're out there, knocking on doors and stuff like that, when you're having those conversations, it should feel like you are beginning a relationship with that person. And then actually having those conversations, persuasion, getting people to actually change their voting habits isn't going to happen because of a really funny meme. It's going to happen because of a conversation, a one-on-one conversation is going to get them to change those habits. And then also having fun. Again, creating that sense of belonging and that, sense of hope that this is something that we're going to do, that we're going to achieve. All of that is fun. So definitely go out and have fun. A lot of times campaigns especially then the party is going to be, more risk adverse. They're going to be a little more conservative in how they go out there. Grassroots people, the volunteers that are running parallel with them, they get to have fun. So if you're going to go out there and have events, be thinking about making them fun. So what are we going to go over today? We're first going to talk about why grassroots events. We're going to tell you how to get started. We're going to show you how to build your event. We're going to go over some tools and how to make them successful. And then we're going to share those resources. And then, if you got any questions, we'll take them at the end. So first of all, kind of the most important thing that I want to convey is right up front, I want to let you all know that you have permission to go out and organize for the Democratic Party, for a candidate, because you care. That is all you need to get out there and be able to organize for the party and for a candidate. If you support that candidate, and if you uphold the democratic values, it's all you need. You have permission to go out there and host events for campaigns. So you right now, by caring, you are an organizer. You are an organizer. So the question is, what are you going to do now that you're an organizer? What are you going to do? So go out there and host an event. Find an event. We're going to go through a bunch of them. Find an event that speaks to you, that's something that sounds like something you really want to do, and just take it on. Just say, this is something I'm going to do. Do not wait for the campaign to come and invite you to host an event, right? Do not wait for a campaign to do that. Campaigns are incredibly busy. They got a lot going on, right? And they can't specifically go out and be recruiting people to be hosting all of their events. They are waiting for you to step up, raise your hand, and say, I am going to do an event. So don't wait for a campaign. The campaign's waiting for you to step up and say you're going to do this. So again, you have permission right now to host an event. Like if you wanted to support Heidi Bidinger's campaign, you right now have permission as someone who cares, who supports what Heidi is looking to achieve as a candidate. If you support, you uphold those democratic values, you have permission to host an event for Heidi's campaign. Like I said, we're going to walk through what some of those different events are, and find one, like I said, that speaks to you, that interests you, that excites you, and that you're going to want to organize. So again, why grassroots events as opposed to just letting the campaign do everything? Well, the difference is with a grassroots event is that again, campaigns and the party are going to be much more risk adverse. So they're going to do things that are tried and true. And that means that they can't really be very creative. And they're going to move slower. There's not as many people, right? So the people that are actually working on a campaign, depending on how much funds that the campaign was able to raise, they might not have very many people. They might just have a handful of volunteers that are staffing their entire campaign. So things are with a campaign, they're going to move slower. Things with the party are going to move slower. But with the grassroots, you're not bridled by anything, right? The only thing bridling you is your motivation, right? So if you are fully motivated to get out there and host an event, you can move very quickly. Also, when grassroots organizers, grassroots volunteers step up to host an event, they're going to work within their networks, which just everybody has their own personal networks, and that is going to be different than what the campaign has and what the party has, and that's good. We need that. We need multiple networks out there being engaged for these events. Also, when you step up to host an event and you're inviting others to come participate with you, that's going to build up that volunteer base. These are people that the campaign or the party otherwise would not have reached. You are able to reach them and engage them and invite them to take part. I like to say that democracy is participation. In order to have a stronger democracy, we need more people to participate. So doing a grassroots event is a way that we can expand out that volunteer base. And like I was mentioning, those multiple networks that we need, that's called relational organizing. That is using your own personal networks. So if you're going to host a house party, you're going to invite people that you already know. That is relational organizing. That is using those personal networks that you have, and that is invaluable to every campaign, is for us to be engaging our personal networks. So another reason why we want and need to have grassroots led events is that grassroots and campaigns we need both in order to have an effective campaign, because campaigns, the way that they work, the way that they are supposed to work, is that campaigns function from the top down, from the candidate down, which is they have to, right? They have to run candidate down. You're voting for a name, right? For a person who is going to do a job, right? So campaigns then are going to be organizing from that top person down. But grassroots then does the opposite. Grassroots is from everybody, from the community going up. So you need to have both. That's how we balance that out. That is how, so the grassroots is how we bring people in to the campaign. And then that campaign is how we focus that, onto the candidates at the top. So we're getting everybody moving towards electing that one candidate. So we need both. So we can't rely on campaigns to do everything, because we need to have that grassroots. So again, that's why we need to have people stepping up and hosting their own events. So if you are new to organizing, so if I was my 2019 self looking at this slide, I would have no idea what I'm looking at in this slide. So this slide is the phases of a campaign. So campaigns have 3 basic phases. One is that organization building. So that's going to be something that is ongoing. And it should be happening all the time, not just during an election cycle, but something that is happening all the time, is that organization building. Grassroots, if you're building a grassroots, it doesn't go cycle to cycle, you're doing it all the time. Like with building bridges, we've been doing this since 2019, right? So we candidates come and go, but the grassroots keeps on moving. So for a campaign, they can't start on that until, the campaign officially declares and all that stuff. So the organization building for campaign is going to be cycle to cycle, whereas, like I said, for grassroots, it is always going on. And then as we get closer into the election, so here we are 13 weeks out from the midterms. So now you are seeing campaigns that are either shifting into or already have been in what is called direct voter contact. So sorry, I'm missing the direct there, voter contact, DVC, direct voter contact. So this is how with campaigns, they need to directly engage all voters. We should be doing that. That's just part of how we have a strong democracy, is that we are out there and we're engaging every single voter. So like for Heidi, she's got a district here within St. Joe County, and she is engaging all of those voters that are within her district. And then the last phase is just prior to the election. It is the get out the vote phase. So that is where we're really ensuring that people have that plan to vote, and that they do vote, and that they have voted. So if there's early voting, making sure that people are taking advantage of early voting. If you live in a state that has vote by mail, that get out the vote is what we call ballot chasing, making sure that people have turned in their ballots. And then in a state where they primarily vote in person, it's making sure that people are getting to the polls, that they have that they're able to make it to the polls. So the get out the vote is right at the very end. And then the difference then when you're talking about either grassroots or for a campaign is going to happen there during that direct voter contact. When you are directly doing direct voter contact for grassroots, you are going to be having a conversation with each voter. So with each voter, you're going to be having a conversation. And then the outcome of that conversation, you might make some notes or something from what that person said, but the main part is that you're having that conversation with that person. When you're working on a campaign and doing direct voter contact, I like to call it's an app and a conversation. So because campaigns really, really care about data, they really run on data. So when you're having an event for a campaign on behalf of a campaign, you're going to want to be thinking about the app, the technical side, the data side, and the conversation. When you're having an event that is just for grassroots, then it's really focused on that conversation, and you may have notes or data of your own. So again, when you are thinking about having an event, your 2 main objectives of any event that you have is, one, to directly be contacting and talking with voters, right? So you want every event be thinking about direct voter contact. How can I get in front of a voter and have a conversation? And then also be thinking about recruiting others, bringing on other volunteers. We need an army, right? The more of us that there are, the better, more volunteers that there are, the better the chance that we are going to win the election. Same with donors, bringing donors on. I like to say it's people either give their dime or their time, and both are needed. Both are needed equally. So also, the more donors that a campaign has, the greater chance that it will be successful. So again, whenever you're thinking about hosting an event, be thinking that your objectives are that direct voter contact and recruit volunteers and donors. Then there's larger pictures when you're a grassroots person. You also have, so there's what I call task A, that is to get that one candidate that you are hosting an event for elected. And then there's the bigger picture. There's helping out Democrats in general for that long term. So that is when you have your events, you can be thinking about connecting in with the community, making connections within the community that are going to strengthen that community and strengthen the Democrats in the area going forward. You don't want to inform people. You want people to be making very informed choices at the ballot box, but also about just, how to take part in the community, what's going on, getting more people just caring about politics in general. And then a big one I like to talk about is inspiring hope. So that is something that we can do is take people that might be feeling a sense of despair and instead instilling a sense of hope into them. I like to say that hopeful people vote. So giving people that inspiration would also be a great objective to have for every event that you host. And I like to quote Harvey Milk whenever I can. He is my personal hero. So he said, you have to give them hope for a better world, hope for a better tomorrow, hope for a better place to come to if pressures at home are too great, hope that all will be all right. So let's get started. How do you get started in hosting an event? Well, the first thing is to think for yourself, what are you going to be most comfortable in hosting an event for? Like, who would you be most comfortable hosting an event for? So anytime that you're having an event, you want to strap on really stretch out those empathy muscles and be thinking about the audience that you are going to be having that event for, and making sure that that audience has a positive experience and is able to get all the the information about the campaign and walk away feeling hopeful and wanting to vote for that candidate. So depending on who you are, what your personality is, the kind of things that you like to do, how motivated you are, you can either put on a public event. So this is a highly visible outreach event. Or you can put on a private event where you are inviting people that you know into the event. So those are two very different kinds of events. It could take very different personalities to put on those events. A public event, is really putting yourself out there and talking with strangers and inviting in people that you don't know. Whereas, like I said, a private event, and I can't spell private, a private event is where you're talking to people that you know. Also be thinking, do you want to have an event that is in person? Or would you prefer to have it on Zoom or in a virtual setting? Right? Again, that could be personality driven. It could also just be, we are in a pandemic. Oh my gosh, I know so many people right now who have COVID. We are definitely still in a pandemic. So wanting to have an event, virtually might be better as well. But that's really going to make a big difference in how you organize and how you bring together a campaign. So an event. So first, be thinking about, would you plan on having it in person, or would you plan on having it virtually? And then also be thinking about your volunteers. Are you going to bring on others onto your event? Are you going to be doing an event where you're directly reaching out to voters? Like, let's say you're going to do an event where you go out and you knock on doors in a neighborhood. Or you're going to do an event where you're phone banking. Are you going to have volunteers? Are you going to need to have volunteers signed up to take the shifts to work with you? Or is this going to be an event where, like a fundraiser or something, where people show up and participate in an event that way? So again, what's interesting to you? What do you think of, and can you see yourself doing, either public or private, in person or virtual? And do you want to be recruiting volunteers to be working on the event with you? So a little bit deeper dive into those different types of events. We'll start with the public events. So if you like the idea of hosting a public event where you are, essentially marketing it out into the community, opening it up for anybody to show up who might want to take part. Such things could be like tabling, putting out a table at a public event where you lay at a table, you put some flyers, some stuff out on that table that would engage people as they come walking by, and then you talk to that person, you talk to the people as they come by. That's a form of a public event. There's super public events. Can't get any more public of an event than a parade. So, do you want to put together a float, or march through a parade representing a candidate, or either, recruiting the candidate to come to your local parade and saying, hey, we got 20 people in this town that are going to march with you. Will you come to the parade? Kind of stuff. But then you gotta put on something for the parade. Local community events that are happening. We were talking about clipboarding, where you just show up at an event where you're very visibly supporting that candidate, and then you're directly talking to voters. Or there's education, like trainings like this one, right? I didn't personally invite everybody that is here. This is something that is open for public to come to. So those are different kinds of public events. When we think about private, and I still can't spell private, when you think about private events, we're thinking about hosting a house party where, if you're inviting people over to your house, these are people that you know. Maybe you're doing a neighborhood event like barbecue or something where you might not invite personally, have like an invite list. You more open it up for anybody in your neighborhood can come. So you're having friends of friends inviting people as well. Or maybe you're doing a fundraiser, again, where you're opening it up for people to come in, but it's like a ticketed kind of event where they make a donation and then they can come to the event. So maybe that's something you like to do. And then the last one, we call them team events. This is where you get groups of people together then to do that directly, reaching out to voters. I'll talk about that phone bank or text banking. So phone banking is really critical to be able to have, the campaign has lists of people to call, especially right now, this phase, early phase of direct voter contact. We're reaching out to more people that are strong Democrats or lean Democrats. Because then we're also, you're not doing a persuasion, you're just making them aware of the candidate. And then that's also where we find a lot of our donors and volunteers is making those calls right now. So it is really critical this time for us to be hosting phone banks. So you and 3 of your friends get together for an hour on Fridays and make phone calls. Well, maybe not Fridays. Fridays aren't the best days for you get together on Thursdays and for an hour and you make phone calls. That's a kind of phone banking event that you can host. Or for canvassing, you can go out there and be knocking on doors. You can get, like I said, you and some friends together to go out and knock doors. So the campaign can give you, turf. So they'll give you codes in minivan to go that will pull up turf for a series of houses that you can go knock on the doors of, and you and your friends get together. Let's say every Wednesday night you get together and you go out and you knock on those doors. You can knock on the doors in your neighborhood, which is really important. If you can sit there and say that, hi, I'm your neighbor, that's much more likely that they're going to listen to you. So again, those are those kind of events that you can host and bring in other volunteers to help you. Postcard and letter writing. So postcards to volunteers is also, postcards to voters is also a great way to engage new volunteers, bring new volunteers on board. People who might not be able to go out and knock doors might be very uncomfortable with the thought of making a phone call. Well, they can write those postcards, and then you can host events for that, where you get together at a cafe, you know, or maybe if it's a group of friends, you get together in some some area for, you know, an hour, a few hours a week in order to write those postcards. So those are those kind of events that are great. There's also service events. These are more the long-term events for where you can actually put in days of service. You can have volunteers come together and put in a day of service along with your grassroots group. So right now we need a lot of time being spent on that direct voter contact. But, you know, as soon as that campaign, as soon as the election is over, we need to keep going. And a great way to keep it going and keep those volunteers engaged, keeping all those networks and all those relationships that you built engaged, is then to turn that power right into doing service days to help out in the community. So big underlying factor between all of those are a lot of events to talk about. The big underlying thing that makes that you can bring it being a grassroots person that you can bring is that you can bring that creativity, right? You know better than anyone what would make your friends turn out to come to an event and participate in an event. You know better than anybody else what would make, you know, your family, your friends, your neighbors actually come out and take part in an event. And then also, like, for your cohorts, you know, if you're a college student, you know what college students would like. Or if you're in a more rural area, you know what in that town really brings people out and brings people together. So we need you being creative and understanding what is happening on the ground around you, what is, you know, what would motivate the people around you. And we need you using that to when you're hosting those events. So like I said, campaigns, the party, they're not going to have all those great ideas that you have. So this is your time to be able to really use that knowledge and that expertise that you have. When you're hosting an event, to really tap into those networks and get people involved and get them engaged in that campaign. Ways to do that for a campaign, ways to do that to allow you to be creative and allow others, you know, volunteers to create events on behalf of the campaign. A way to do that is if the campaign provides a branding guide. So when you're creating materials, creating a flyer, creating a social media post, any of that kind of stuff that you're creating, you want it to look like the campaign. You want it look like part of the campaign. So a great, you know, campaigns, if they're really on top of it, they're going to provide this brand guide for you. So you can go out and you can create those flyers on their behalf. You don't have to go to the campaign and say, hey, I'm going to be tabling at a campaign. Can you give me a bunch of flyers? No, you can just go make a flyer on your own and distribute it. So like I said, campaigns that are really on top of it, they are going to have this brand guide available. So you can go out there and you can create those materials and stuff that you need and be promoting stuff on their brand. Also, campaigns that are really gung-ho to have people helping them out will create these rules of the road, if you will, or so under Pete's campaign, he called it rules of the road. And then in Joe's campaign, he called it Joe's code. So either the rules of the road or a code that creates this like this set of values, states out loud, you know, prints it out loud what the values of the campaign are. So when you are working volunteering for that campaign, this is how you are expected to conduct yourself. And then also when you bring on others to volunteer to help out on that campaign, These are those guidelines that then you can set those expectations for those volunteers. When you go knock on that door, I want you to conduct yourself, according to these guidelines, these values. So that is a good way that a campaign can scale up more quickly, is bringing people on board, new people on board, but asking them to uphold the core values of the campaign in their conduct as they're out there talking with the public. And if you then also are doing that, helping out a campaign and doing that direct voter contact for a campaign, and you need to know how then to phone bank for that campaign, how to canvass for that campaign, then we have a couple how-tos out there and at buildingbridgesforamerica.com, really obvious URLs, buildingbridgesforamerica.com, how to phone bank, Building Bridges for America, how to canvass with dashes in between the words. And these are the technical side. Like I said, when you are doing direct voter contact for a campaign, it's going to be an app and a conversation. These both will help you get ready to prepare you to be able to use that app that most campaigns use for phone banking and canvassing. Most small campaigns will use for phone banking and canvassing. So if you want to get ready and prepared to help out a campaign, you can go to our website. It walks you through step by step the technical side of how to get yourself and others that are going to be helping you out, the technical side for the app, and then getting comfortable and having those conversations with voters. Then there's also the guidance of how to have those conversations with voters. For canvassing, we actually have a video. So if you want to see it in action, if you've never knocked on doors before, or if you've recruited friends or family and new volunteers who've never done it before, they can watch a video, they can see it actually in action. All right, so you've thought about what kind of event suits you, like what kind of event speaks to you that you would like to go out there and host. We've talked about how to tie it in to a campaign. Now to go out and actually build the event, We got a lot of resources to help you out. So when you are actually thinking about, oh, okay, now I'm going to host, a phone bank for Heidi's campaign. I'm going to do that. You can go to get the trainings. I got the app set up on my computer. But now what am I going to do? I got to go, I got to get friends. We got to meet up somewhere. We actually have to do this. How do you do that? That's where these resources can come in handy. We're going to run through some of them. So this is at our buildingbridgesforamerica.com. It's our team resources, team.resources. One really clear thing that would help out is a checklist. So this is a checklist. This is actually for having an event in person. If you're going to host an event in person, a public event in person, this is a checklist to walk you through all the steps that you will need to cover in order to host a successful event. So, the obvious things right off the top, what is the title of the event? When are you going to have it? What time is it? Where are you going to have it? What is the description? And then those goals. Why are we having it? And then of course, then that target audience, who are you looking to be able to come to this event? So just writing that stuff down ahead of time is going to be able to really focus you on building your event and then having a more successful event. Those contacts, if you're having an in-person event that's going to happen at a certain time, it is really helpful to have written down somewhere the contacts of the people that you might need to contact leading up to the event and even during the event. Then we got a bunch of checklist things to walk through as far as the logistics go. And then we also have a list of volunteer roles that would be helpful to have for an in-person event. So there's a lot of roles here for when you're setting up and you're planning for an event. You might end up being most of those roles, but if someone says they want to help out, or if you're recruiting others to help out, it's helpful then to be able to ask them to take on certain roles. And so we have the roles listed there as well. And then there's, if you're going to have an event, a public event, a key part of hosting a public event is to have the public show up, which means you have to market it. You got to put it out there. You got to promote the event so people will show up. So there's a checklist there of various ways for people to find your event. And we're actually going to walk through, I'm going to name a couple of those resources here in a second. And then during the event, there's a different set of roles for your volunteers during the event as well. So if you are able to get multiple people to help you out, separating out those roles is really helpful. So again, if you are planning on having an in-person event for a campaign, grab the checklist, walk through that checklist, and hopefully it will give you some confidence in as you are organizing that event. Then during the event, it's great to have an agenda during the event. So you have a time, there's social time, you're all going to be talking, when you have an event and you get a bunch of people together. But it's really important to also be able to stop and actually have an agenda, a purpose that you walk through. And we recommend that you, at every event that you have, no matter what kind of event that it is, that you are able to, that you are making sure that you are covering and speaking to that why, sharing your enthusiasm, sharing your commitment, and having others be able to share theirs as well. That creates a sense of belonging and community. You're welcoming others into this. You're creating that movement, that sense that this is something that is happening. So you're really creating that community when you are sharing why, and you're sharing that enthusiasm, and then that hope that I was speaking to, giving people that hope. If you at every meeting, if you could give an update of what's happening in the campaign, where the campaign is at, maybe you can bring on some guests that can speak to that. And then if you can also provide training at that time for a specific skill. It could be something really basic, like training people of how to access the website so they know how to make a donation so they can send their friends there, right? But in every single event, if you're training, you're providing a little bit more of a skill that is going to empower people that are attending your event to actually take action. Always have an ask at every single time that you are talking to voters. Every single time that you're talking to your volunteers, you want to have an ask. When you're talking to voters, you want to ask them to vote for your candidate. Talking to volunteers, you want to ask them to participate in another event or to make a donation. So you always want to have that ask. Have a call to action. So next steps is always super important prioritize next steps of what you want people to do. And again, have that next event scheduled. So this is something that's not just a one-off event. This is part of a series of events that will lead up to that get out the vote time of the campaign. And very critical, before and during and after the event, it is 2022, meaning that if you don't take a photo and put it on social media, it didn't even happen. Right? So make sure that you are taking photos of your event, no matter what your event is. Make sure that you are taking photos and that you're sharing those social media posts. People like to see things that are happening right now. So if you could assign a volunteer to be taking those photos and posting them online during the event, again, that creates that sense that something's happening and people want to be part of that. But yeah, definitely make sure that of every event that you're posting those events and that the stuff's getting out there. Then ask your attendees to post their own stuff and to repost and to share the content that's going out there. Just help out that algorithm. If you have graphics in places at the event, so if you're going to use like a hashtag in order to tile these together, make sure you're telling people what that hashtag is at the event. And then after the event, you're going to want to send an event summary to the people that signed up to attend the event. And then also have a debrief with whoever was helping organize that campaign. So that event, so you can find out what worked, what didn't, and what you're going to do better next time. And then along those lines is measuring success. So first, knowing your numbers. How many people attended? How much money did we raise? Gauging that enthusiasm. Were people really into it? Were they excited about the event? And then lessons learned. Write down those lessons learned. Be honest and write those down so you can have a more successful event the next time. All right, so really quick here, I want to run through some of the campaign tools that are available for you to use. And most of these are completely for free. They're all for free, but some of them are completely free. So I'm going to run through really quick. So I see that we're running out of time. So Mobilize is a fantastic place. I mean, you likely found us on Mobilize, so or signed up with this. So Mobilize is a great place to be able to post both public and private. You can also use it for private events. It's a great way to get people to sign up for your event, and it manages your attendees. So either public or private, you can host, you can put the event on Mobilize and use that to get people to sign up. If you have a grassroots organization, you can actually get an account for free. If you don't want to get an account, or you're not part of a grassroots group, you can, the DNC right now, the DNC's Mobilize will let you host an event through there. So you can create an event through theirs. And yeah, that's a great way to network out there. This is what our Mobilize looks like. If you haven't seen it before, it does it by, it'll organize by geographic area. So it's a great way for doing an in-person event, is doing it on Mobilize. Graphics, handouts, stuff like that. Like I said, don't wait for the campaign to hand you something. Go make it yourself. Grab that brand guide. And then you can use a tool like Canva. Canva, you can use it for free. So canva.com lets you generate graphics and stuff. So you can upload the colors and the logo of the campaign, and you can create professional looking graphics on the fly. So I really recommend Canva. Zoom, you're on Zoom right now. So using Zoom to host your virtual events, you get 40 minutes for free with a Zoom account. Or if you want to pay for a Zoom account, or find somebody who has a Zoom account that would let you a paid Zoom account, then you can host your virtual meetings. Or you can make your meetings and your events virtual. Which you might be more comfortable with during a pandemic. Plus, it could create a larger reach. It's hard. Not everybody is able to get to a specific place at a specific time. So yeah, posting things on Zoom is helpful. Slack is a great way to organize with other volunteers and other like-minded people. Is with Slack. I personally have never worked on a campaign that didn't use Slack. So a lot of times campaigns use it as well. So it's good to become familiar with Slack and see it as an option for when you are organizing a lot of people and organizing an event. Event promotion. So again, to get your event out there, so out to the public, there's a lot of good ways to get it out there. I mean, there's Twitter, of course, but then Facebook is kind of the only game in town as far as being able to organize well geographically and within coalitions. And Nextdoor somewhat, although a lot of times Nextdoor groups will not allow political stuff on there. So, but if you are able to use Nextdoor, that's another one that does it geographically. And we have a lot of these resources out there. So everything that I just talked about is linked out there on our team resources page. And then that's it. So I've gone over time. I apologize. So I'm going to cut this off here. But yeah, so also you can see the kind of events and stuff that Building Bridges is doing. If you give us a follow out there, Build Bridges #4 America. You can find us across all the social media.